What is up, guys? It is me, the Moliminous, here with another top 10. This time, we're dealing with the MLP movie, which just came out. The critically panned, actually, movie. Kinda sucks, but it did good enough that Hasbro has already greenlit the second one, so there's that. Apparently, they sold enough merch to justify its existence, and I don't even think it's hit China yet, which is usually where a lot of the money for movies come from. That's also where a lot of leaks come from, as well. It's ironic, isn't it? Anyways, guys, let's go ahead and count down top 10 weirdest facts about the movie, because this movie, it's kind of weird. Not only was it leaked in full quality, but so was the budget and all kinds of information regarding it, something that we normally don't ever see. This is stuff that's normally kept under lock and key, but because Hasbro, DHX, and everyone that ever works on this property seems to have some sort of leak, we actually get to have our hands on all these awesome documents. None of this is in any kind of particular order. It's not from least to worst or from anything like best to good, anything like that. It's just literally how I thought of them. Number 1. So the movie actually cost about $24.3 million to produce. It's not the biggest budget out there, but it's also not small by any means. However, $19 million plus, that's 78% of the budget, was from overseas animation. That's a lot of money to put into just animating the movie alone. But it makes sense. I mean, it's an animated 2D feature. Shouldn't the most expensive thing be making the animated 2D feature? And plus, the overall budget was about $31 million or something around there, but they got a couple million off in tax credits. So they do still have another $10 million to play with here for other things. Number 2. The original story actually involved a lost alicorn brother for Celestia and Luna. He was gonna be evil and he had his own kingdom and stuff like that. It was going to be the first time we ever saw an alicorn that was male. And I guess they decided that was a bad idea. It sounded too much like a fan fiction, even for them, and they decided to go ahead and scrap it. Now, that would have been the kind of cool scenario. Definitely would have been a lot of theory fodder. I'm sure there would have been so many people happy if this happened, just because they knew the outrage and all the kind of new weird stuff that would prop up because of this would have given them endless video ideas. But I'm kind of glad they didn't go this full kind of route here. I'm not sure how much I could have stomached of this, but who knows, maybe it could have been even done right if they gave enough to the actual writing budget. Speaking of budgets, Tara Strong was the most paid voice actress on this. She actually got paid more than all of the main 6 voices put together, and almost more than all of the other guest vocals put together as well. That's a lot of money. Tara must be raking in that cash. To be fair, she has a pretty large pedigree. She's not a newbie on the field. She's definitely earned her marks. And while I'm not the biggest fan of her voice, I don't think she's really someone you want to scoff at. Number 4. Speaking of the guest vocals, Sia was paid about $300,000 with a $62,000 bonus. So just for her single. And I'm assuming this is for her because this is music licenses and it's only one, and there's only one, track that's been released by a major person that was featured first in the movie, and that would be Sia. So Sia seems to have been paid $362,000 just for her song to be used in this movie. And this is actually going to go ahead and segue pretty nicely into the number 5 spot here. While she gets the biggest overall payout, she actually only got the second lowest bonus of all of the guest vocals who did singing parts. For some reason, I guess they decided her bonus needed to be smaller than everyone else's, except for one other person. I'm not sure what's the thought process there or why they did that. Obviously, she's getting a large amount of money. She may even get royalties from DVD sales since it will contain her song. And that may even count as a sale. Who really knows? If YouTube plays and Spotify plays count as album sales, then maybe DVD sales count as album sales as well. Who knows? That could be kind of interesting. Number 6. This is the lowest reviewed pony movie to date. Yes, my friends, it was just destroyed on Rotten Tomatoes and all kinds of other sites. I can't say that they're necessarily wrong because they are falling to the same line that I've been thinking of, like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, you know, depending. It's not really a bad movie, but critics are pretty much in agreement of it's not a bad movie, but it's not really that great. It's really for just people who already like whatever Hasbro's going to put out. That's fair enough. Hasbro knows their audience, they know what they can get away with, and they do it. If people have a problem with that, I guess they could just stop watching. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Number 7. The first draft of this movie, with Alicorns, I assume, cost a total of $160,000, while the second draft by Hiseo, I think, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her name, but her second draft alone cost $500,000. Total, she got about $1.8 million for her writing and idea. Keep in mind, this is just the drafts of the story. There's other story writers who actually hammer out everything else. She's apparently worked on a bunch of other really big movies, and I guess they hired her on to make it more accessible to the general audience. Pretty much like, here's what we want. Can you make it more appealing to general people? Number 8. The reason Starlight was in the movie but not in the movie was because production actually started before they knew Starlight was going to be such a prominent character. In fact, they didn't really know anything that was going on with the show while making this, which is why there's some really weird stuff regarding who's actually featured in the movie. You see Starlight and Trixie hanging out and stuff like that, but that wasn't really there before. It's just kind of added. So if you were curious why Starlight didn't do anything, or why the changelings don't help, or the dragons, it's because they didn't know those episodes were gonna be made, and so they just kind of ignored them. Number 9. Twilight has the most lines of anybody, with Fluttershy actually holding the least, which makes sense. If you actually break it all down, Twilight had something like 116 different lines of dialogue, while Fluttershy had somewhere in the high 20s. Obviously, Twilight was our main character. Of course, she's going to have the most dialogue. It seemed like the movie was mainly focused on her, which makes sense. In MOP, she would be the main character, not so much in some of the seasons coming on now, like season 7. I'm not sure if you would actually classify her as a main character when other characters have more episodes than her. I'm not even sure if we really have a main character anymore at this point, but at least in the movie, she definitely was the main character. And considering how much they paid her, I'm pretty sure they wanted to get their money's worth out of her. In the number 10 spot, this is the second scenario in which the villain dies. MLP is notorious for reforming their villains or just torturing them by freezing them in stone while they're cognitively aware of what's going on around them for 1,000 years, or banishing people to isolation in some desert or moon for 1,000 years. So this is a weird punishment. The only other person who's actually ever died would be Sombra. Ironically, it's in the same kind of motif of them breaking apart. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe that's just something to do with ratings. Like, if you have the character break apart without blood, it's different, and you can get away with that being in a PG movie or a G movie. But they both kind of die in similar ways, and they both die. They haven't killed anyone else in the movie but these two, so it's a bit weird. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you enjoyed. I love your faces, so I hope you at least like my video. And if you guys do really love me as well, go ahead and support us on Patreon or pick up a shirt on our TeePublic page. We got some awesome new designs. You should definitely go check it out. Look, we even have a Brony Supreme t-shirt. And guys, it's normally $7,000, but you can go ahead and pick it up for $20 right there, plus shipping and handling. So anyways, guys, I've been Faith and Moliminous. Peace and lim out. I'll see you in the next one.
Woo! Hey. I do it for love. Yeah, do it for. it for the love, for the love.